What if the person who changed your life was the one you could never save? She was the light in his darkness. He was the reason she dared to dream. But sometimes, love isn't enough to rewrite fate. A man trapped in a body that betrayed him. A woman determined to give him a reason to live. A love so powerful, yet doomed from the start. This is the painful reality Louisa Clark faces when she meets Will Traynor. Will had everything: a perfect life, wealth, love, and adventure, until an accident changed everything. Once a man who embraced every thrill life had to offer, he was now confined to a wheelchair, stripped of his independence and will to live. If this story moved you, don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into unforgettable films. And let me know in the comments, do you believe love can change fate? 2 years after his accident, Louisa, a quirky and optimistic young woman from a struggling family, unknowingly steps into his world. Desperate for a job, she takes a well-paying offer to care for a man with a disability. She doesn't know yet that her presence is part of a secret plan, a final attempt by Will's mother to make him change his mind about ending his life. Louisa's first encounter with Will is anything but warm. He is cold, sarcastic, and completely uninterested in her presence. Despite her attempts to connect, he pushes her away with cruel remarks and a hardened exterior. But Louisa, though shaken, refuses to quit. Her home life isn't much better. Her boyfriend, Patrick, is self-absorbed, obsessed with his fitness goals, and dismissive of her struggles. Her family relies on her, and she desperately needs this job. But as the days pass, Louisa notices something deeper in Will's anger. It isn't just directed at her. He is furious at the world, at himself, at the fate that has trapped him in a life he no longer wants. Will wasn't always this way. He was once full of life, a man who loved extreme sports and travel. But the accident robbed him of everything that made him feel alive. His pain intensifies when his ex-girlfriend and best friend visit him, only to announce that they are getting married. The woman he once loved has moved on, confirming what Will already believes. He is now just an observer in a world he no longer belongs to. Louisa watches as he destroys the photos of his past, each torn memory a reminder of what he has lost. But she refuses to see him as just a broken man. She believes there is still hope. Their tension reaches its peak when Louisa tries to fix one of the torn photographs. Will lashes out, insulting her. But instead of backing down, Louisa finally snaps. She tells him he doesn't have the right to treat her this way, that she's here because she needs the job, not because she pities him. For the first time, Will is taken aback. No one has ever spoken to him like that since the accident. This moment marks a shift. That night, he invites her to watch a movie with him. A silent truce, a first step towards something neither of them expected. From that day on, things change. Will starts opening up, laughing at Louisa's stories, teasing her in a way that feels playful rather than cruel. His mother notices the change, clinging to the fragile hope that Louisa might be the one to save him. But Louisa still doesn't understand the full picture. She assumes Will is improving, that with time, he will heal. The truth is far more devastating. One day, Louisa overhears a conversation between Will's parents. The truth crashes down on her like a storm. Will isn't planning for a future. He has made the decision to end his life through assisted death in Switzerland. His mother had only asked for 6 months to change his mind, and those months are running out. Shaken, Louisa considers quitting. She has come to care for Will in a way she never expected, and the thought of losing him is unbearable. But her sister convinces her that maybe, just maybe, she can give him a reason to stay. With renewed determination, Louisa begins planning. She researches, makes lists, and comes up with activities to remind Will that life is still worth living. She presents her idea to his parents, and for the first time in 2 years, Will is about to step outside his home. What Louisa doesn't know is that love is about to change them both forever. After this, Will continued to share more about his life with Louisa, telling her stories from his past. He wanted her to understand him, to see beyond the man in the wheelchair and get to know the person he once was. One evening, he took her to a stunning location, the kind of place that made everything feel magical. And there, he revealed something unexpected. He had decided to attend his ex-girlfriend's wedding and wanted Louisa to accompany him. She was surprised but agreed without hesitation. Meanwhile, something wonderful happened for Louisa's family. Will's father, knowing their financial struggles, offered Louisa's father a job as a maintenance manager in one of his businesses. It was a life-changing opportunity, and the whole family was overjoyed. However, Will made it clear that he didn't just do it for Louisa's family. He also did it for her, so that she could start thinking more about herself instead of always putting others first. Slowly but surely, Will was reshaping Louisa's mindset and encouraging her to dream bigger. The much-anticipated wedding day arrived, and Louisa looked stunning, though she didn't think so. When she voiced her insecurity, Will immediately shut her down with a firm yet affectionate tone, telling her to never say that again. They spent the entire evening talking, laughing, and genuinely enjoying each other's company. When the time came for dancing, Will obviously couldn't join in the traditional sense, but Louisa had an idea. Without hesitation, she sat on his lap and urged him to join her on the dance floor. In that moment, the two of them shared something special, a fun, romantic, and deeply emotional experience. Will looked at her with sincerity and whispered, "You are almost the only reason I get up in the morning." For Louisa, this was proof that her plan to give Will a new reason to live was working. He was finding happiness again. But life has a cruel way of balancing joy with hardship. The very next day, Will fell seriously ill with pneumonia and had to be hospitalized. As Louisa remained by his side, she faced another personal struggle. Her relationship with Patrick was already on thin ice, but this situation pushed it further toward breaking point. She had canceled their planned vacation to Norway just so she could be there for Will, and Patrick was furious. He believed she didn't support him, even though she had always been there for him in the past. The truth was, Patrick was so used to being Louisa's priority that the moment she put someone else first, he couldn't handle it. During one of the hospital visits, Louisa had a heartbreaking conversation with Will's nurse. She revealed something that shook Louisa to her core. Will always hid his pain when she was around. But the moment he was alone, he would scream in agony. At night, he dreamt of running, swimming, living freely. But every time he woke up, he was faced with the harsh reality of his condition. The realization hit Louisa hard. Will wasn't just suffering physically, he was trapped in a never-ending cycle of emotional torment. That was why he had made his decision. Some might call it selfish, arguing that taking his own life would deeply wound those who loved him. But from Will's perspective, it wasn't about them. It was about ending his suffering. And really, can anyone judge a person who simply wants to be free from unbearable pain? At this point, Louisa is giving everything to make Will happy. But is she losing herself in the process? What do you think? Should love mean sacrificing your own happiness? Let us know in the comments below. Louisa refused to accept it. She was determined to change his mind. So she planned a trip. One final attempt to give Will something to hold on to. Something worth staying alive for. Back at home, Louisa walked into an unexpected scene. Patrick had set up a romantic dinner, an attempt to reconcile after their fight. But as they sat together, all he could talk about was his training, his races, his calories. And when Louisa mentioned the trip, Patrick's insecurities exploded. He accused her of treating this like a honeymoon rather than a work assignment. His jealousy boiled over, and in frustration, he reminded her that they had been together for 7 years, while Will had only known her for 6 months. But what Patrick failed to understand was that love isn't about the length of time. It's about depth, connection, and the way someone makes you feel. Louisa had spent years in a relationship where she was barely seen, where her voice wasn't truly heard. And now, she had met someone who listened, who encouraged her to dream, who made her feel special in ways she never had before. In that moment, she realized she wasn't in love with Patrick anymore. Without arguing or fighting, she simply let him go. Sometimes love isn't about holding on. It's about knowing when to walk away. On the trip, everyone had a wonderful time. Even Will's nurse enjoyed himself. One night, as Louisa helped Will settle in, he asked her to stay. She hesitated at first, But then, something shifted. She leaned in, and for the first time, their lips met. It was a kiss filled with unspoken emotions: love, gratitude, pain, and hope. They held each other, cherishing every second of the moment. The next morning, Will encouraged Louisa to try diving. Terrified, she hesitated, but Will reassured her with a simple, powerful message: "You can do whatever you want." And in many ways, that had been his lesson for her all along. From telling her she looked beautiful at the wedding, to urging her to take off her scarf at the opera, to helping her see her own worth, Will had always wanted Louisa to embrace her potential, to believe in herself. For the first time in a long while, Will seemed genuinely happy. But just as Louisa began to believe she had succeeded, everything came crashing down. One evening, as they danced under the stars, Louisa leaned in to kiss him, but this time, Will pulled away. "You already know, don't you?" he said softly. Louisa did know. She had known all along, but she had convinced herself that if she tried hard enough, loved him enough, she could make him change his mind. Will thanked her for giving him the best 6 months of his life. But his decision remained the same. As soon as they returned, he would go to Switzerland to end his life. Louisa was devastated. "I thought I had changed you. I thought I had given you a reason to live." Will gently explained that while she had made his life better, he couldn't live the way he was. He asked her to come with him, to be by his side in his final moments. Louisa was horrified. "How can you ask me that?" she cried. "How can you ask me to watch you die?" She left, shattered, unable to process the pain. When they returned home, Will's mother saw Louisa's tear-streaked face and knew what had happened. She reached out, but Louisa simply whispered, "I didn't make it." The day Will left for Switzerland, Louisa remained locked in her room, drowning in sorrow. "What do you do when you can't change someone?" she asked her father. "You love them," he answered. Those words gave her the courage she needed. She boarded a plane and went to Will's side. She lay beside him, resting her head on his chest. There were no more words left to say. Just love. Just heartbreak. And then, he was gone. Weeks later, Louisa read a letter from Will. He had left her money. Not enough to last a lifetime, but enough to buy her freedom. "Don't think too much about me," he wrote. "Live." And in the end, that's what she did. Because love doesn't end when a person leaves. It stays within you, shaping you forever. This story is heartbreaking, but it raises an important question. Should we fight for someone's happiness, even if it means letting them go? Comment below, and if this story touched you, share it with someone who needs to hear it.